This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to Eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.
Hello and good afternoon to everybody. Of course, this is Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Of course, I'm your host, BMR. Thanks to everybody for coming in today. I have kind of a show planned. I had a show planned, but you know, my counterpart Tex, he's off taking care. He's out of pocket. I don't know if he'll be on later or not. And then my other counterpart that I have on this is Brent from the Paranormal Portal. He's got something going on, I think. So yeah, but that's okay. The show rolls on. So I kind of put something together last minute here. And I got to tell you, it's I cannot wait for next week because we got the snow mixed with rain. I woke up this morning with snow on my lawn. I'm like, my gosh, on my truck. Well, the 60-degree weather will be moving in shortly. Next week, Monday, is supposed to get in the 60s. It's 33 now. It's going to be 66 starting Monday. Then, of course, in May, it rolls right into the 80s. We really don't get spring here. It goes from winter to summer with a snap of your fingers. So looking forward to that. I want to thank everybody for coming on in. I do want to thank everybody for buying my books you can find on Amazon. Bigfoot, Mr. Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1 and Book 2. Simply type Bigfoot, Mr. Rob in your Amazon browser. Leave a review for those that bought it. I appreciate that. It helps promote sales, so I do appreciate that. And you all heard about a conference coming up September 19th and 20th. About 6 months away, you guys. So, yeah, you know, get your tickets and be a fantastic show. A lot of you have heard about it already. Gary always posts the links. Hi, Pops. How you doing? In the chat room. You know, it's going to be a big event. It's growing. It's really growing. We have 6 more months left. So, yeah, come check us out in Richmond, Missouri for that. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, Texas Front Porch found on YouTube, The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube, Donnie Cho's Says Stuff, Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World, and Paranormal Paul, who just hit 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations to Paul. Hit that like button, leave a comment after the show. Again, it's all analytics. It helps promote sales on YouTube. Not sales. It helps promote the growth of the show. So thank you for all that. So yeah, I'm hello to Kimber, hello to Keith, Pops, Gary Spikes, Denise. Who else do we have? BJ, hello, BJ LePierre, up there and Illustrator. Good to see you as always. Michelle, hi Michelle, how are you doing today? We've got Mr. Castro. What did Mr. Castro just do? Yes, Mr. Castro, 5 new BMR Pirates mateys. Thank you to Mr. Josh Castro, big supporter of the channel. We have 5 new Pirates mateys, which reminds me the Super Chat is also open. It's a great way to help support what we do. Thank you, Joshua. I do appreciate you. That's awesome. Keith from Michigan. He's in the house. Stevie B, always great to see you. PRT's in the pool. Go check out PRT, of course. Josh Turner on his awesome channel. Hello, Dale Moore. Thanks for coming on in. Stephen Finnegan, good to see you, Stephen. Haven't seen you in a bit. I know you're busy guy. Scott M., how you doing? Kimber, I think I mentioned Kimber. As you're all coming on in here, well, thank you so much for all that. Thank you, Mr. Castro, once again. So again, I think I'm going solo. It's looking like because Tex is out of pocket. Mr. Thomas is out of pocket. I don't have a guest today. This show, we sometimes have a guest, sometimes we don't. What we do on Tuesday nights is my guest-driven show. Tuesday nights on my channel. It's myself and Krista. Tuesday nights at 9. Right back here Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Then Friday, I've been doing BMR story time with BMR Friday nights at 6 or 6:30, depends when I get home, where I do true cryptid encounter stories for you folks. You seem to love those. Then Saturday night, I'm on with Krista, Randy, and Monica, where we do late night into the bazaar, which is pretty, it's a cool end of the week show. We just hang out, we relax, and talk about weird stuff. So I'm on 4 days a week. Yeah, but I love it. And I love everybody that comes on and watches, and I appreciate your support. Hello, Michelle Wilfong. How are you? Smoky Mount Wanderer, how are you? Barry Brown, good to see Barry Brown coming on in. So I didn't know what I wanted to do today, you guys, because I had something planned, and my two co-hosts are out, no guests, as I said. So, and I always do Friday nights. I save for you guys to do these encounter stories. So I did put a little show together. What I'm going to do is I decided, you know what, I'm going to do an encounter story today. And I thought it would be cool because my first book that came out last 2 years ago, well, actually, I think it'll be 2 years in July. Bigfoot Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters Book 1. And I'm going to share the very first story to get the show rolling, to start the show. And I've also had some weird experience today at Walmart I'll talk about, which was kind of creepy. And then also, you guys, what I might do is open the lines and throw a link if anybody wants to come on board and join me and talk about something they'd like to share. It could be really anything, you guys. I'm pretty easy. Hello, little Patty. Hello, Mark. How's it going? So thanks. So a little different format. I'm gonna share this first Dogman encounter from book 1, the very first story in book 1. I usually reserve these for Fridays, but you know, I wanted to put this together for y'all and do a cool show. So I'm going to get started. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for coming in. So I'm going to get us started here. Again, this is from my very first book, very first story in the very first book, from an email that I got several years ago. And so I'm going to share this with you guys. Hello, Cool Hand. Hello, Henry. Thanks to everybody. Guy starts out by telling me, hey, Rob, I do believe that dogmen exist. He goes on to say, I also believe that they are here with no good intentions. I know, Pops, you would disagree with that, but there's all sorts of encounters we come across. Pops has seen a dogman. Pops didn't believe in dogman until he, started rolling with Tex. I think they're here, and they like to create chaos, he goes on to tell me. They like to create anxiety. They like to scare us. Then he goes on to tell me, Rob, I don't know if the dog man is the pet of Lucifer himself. Then he says if Lucifer did have a dog, it probably would be the dog man. He goes on to tell me that his name is Tom. And he goes on to tell me that I was unsure about giving away where in Idaho I live or where I came across this encounter. Then he goes on to tell me, well, I'll just give you a general location. as that wouldn't be a bad idea to at least give that out without giving up my identity. And again, a lot of these people that send me these things, they don't want to come on the show, you guys. They just want to get it off their chest, but not go live on a show, show their face, give out their real name. And I get that, right? We all understand that. He goes, Rob, I just need people to know. He says, the place where I live in Idaho is at or near the foothills of Thunder Mountain. He goes down and say, Rob, this takes place in the year of 2017. My great uncle Max, he says, had just passed away. My uncle Max did very well for himself. He did well enough, in fact, that he received a small ranch or slash a farm that came with 2 cows, 2 horses, and a dozen to 15 chickens. Rob, my house had a nice wraparound porch where I could survey my property and just get lost in the beauty of the land, the mountains in the foreground. Also, I had a beautiful river and a wooded tree line that lined my property. Hello, David. Rob, I had a stable for the horses and a barn with a chicken coop, obviously, to take care of the animals I inherited along with the ranch. The barn he left open. He left the barn door open for the cows to enter in as they pleased when they were done grazing on the land. Rob, I inherited this ranch with these chickens, these cows, these horses. Rob, I got to tell you, I didn't know what to do with this because I'm not a farmer, nor do I attend cattle. Just not my thing. But I got this inheritance, which I was grateful for. What he planned on doing was going off and selling his cows and his chickens. And he had other plans for the other parts of the property, the land. Hey, Mojo. He said, most likely I was going to plan on keeping the horses. So now he sets up the stage for me as he goes on with this story, this encounter. And he goes on to say, Rob, this is what I went through on this property. He says, after living on the ranch for several weeks, everything was fine. He had gotten in touch with a local rancher to have the cows, the chickens taken off of his hands. He wanted to sell them and just to be rid of them, make whatever money he could make. In fact, he goes on to tell me that he was just about ready to give the animals away just to get rid of them. But he struck up a deal to make a little money. The deal was struck on a Monday, and by the weekend, everything would be gone. Wednesday night, you heard a ruckus about 9 o'clock at night. It was obviously that's the evening, and it was out back. The ruckus was coming from the chicken coop inside of the barn. Rob, I never heard these chickens making so much noise. And he goes, it was a weird thing came across me because these chickens, they seemed like they were nervous. He says it was just odd. It was just different. The cows are out in the field and the horses were in their barn. Upon venturing over to the chicken coop, he noticed that the coop was smashed to pieces and half of the chickens were torn apart. Rob, they were literally ripped to pieces. What made it most strange, he says to me, it appeared that the chickens weren't eaten. It didn't seem like a predator got to them. It appeared that they were pulled apart by hands. All the heads were ripped right off and dispersed about the ground outside the now smashed chicken coop. He goes on to say that maybe 7 chickens were spared and they made it. But he also noticed that they were trapped on the underside of the chicken coop, which probably was the reason they were saved. Robbie says it seems somehow it appeared that who or whatever did this did it for pure pleasure. And he says, Rob, that's kind of what I had sensed. I sensed this was done out of pleasure. They're ripping apart of the chickens, almost like for no reason. These chickens weren't fed on, they weren't taken. It was just a gruesome sight. The chickens, Rob, basically, and I can't use this word on YouTube anymore, they were unalived, everybody, for pleasure. He then goes on to tell me, hello, Jen, how you doing? Jen and Eddie were on my show last Tuesday. Go check it out. They talked about some paranormal encounters. They also talked about Eddie's great-great-grandfather, the legendary Robert Johnson, who went to the crossroads. Check that show out this past Tuesday with Krista, Eddie and Jen. Go check them out on YouTube, Eddie and Jen's vlog. Back to the story, the cows were a distance away. He was guessing they were distanced a lot further than usual because they were frightened. They were frightened about the activity that took place at this chicken coop as these chickens were simply slaughtered. Hi, Tyler. Hi, Paranormal Oz. Thanks to everybody for coming in. He said he felt it strange that during this commotion that he did not hear the horses from the other barn. Rob, with all this commotion, everything going on, the chickens, the cows venture further away from their natural location where they always hung out at. It was odd to him that the horses, certainly they weren't bucking, they weren't acting crazy. He couldn't hear them. Not a peep from the horses. Rob, I start to get this queasy feeling in my stomach. My heart's pounding, he goes on to tell me. And he has to venture off now to where he kept the horses in this other barn. He got past the barn door. He looks inside of the barn. He's looking in now on his horses. Rob, I stood there in horror. I stood there in disbelief, and I stood there in shock. There laid his 2 horses, which he planned on keeping, by the way, of all the property, of all the animals that he inherited on the property. He wanted to keep the 2 beautiful horses. Again, to Terrifyingly, he notices and sees that both of his horses were dead. Hey, Pancho. Both their throats had been slashed. The heads were twisted almost completely around, and it appeared as though their necks were broken. Again, it refers back to me, Rob. I'm just in shock. I cannot believe or process what has happened here on this property. First, the chickens that seem to be randomly executed. The cows run away from their normal grazing area way away, way a ways away from the ranch. And now the tragedy that took place with the two horses in their barn that they stayed in, right? Rob, that's evil. That's outright evil, isn't it? As he says to me. Hello, Leonard. He goes, Rob, in a weird way, I suppose if the chickens and even the horses had been fed upon, eaten, or dragged off of the property, I guess it would make a slight difference, he says. A predator looking to eat, a desperate predator, maybe, that was hungry, hunting an easy target with these animals inside the barn, but that wasn't the case. It looked like a murder scene. Rob, I try to get my composure together. He calls the local authorities to have them investigate, look around, the DNR, anybody that would listen, anybody that would come to his property. Fills out a report. His hands are shaking. He's trembling. He's just, again, I can understand this guy. You see something like this, everybody. What goes through your head, right? You're scared. You're wondering. You have no idea. He goes to his liquor cabinet and he pours himself a good long belt, as he says, of his favorite brand of whiskey. Rob, after I swallow my shot down, I'm going to make that call. I'm going to call somebody, call the authorities to get him out to the property. Rob, I was sitting facing my bay window, as he goes on to tell me, with the tree line roughly 30 yards away. You can see the mountains in the distance. He goes, it's kind of calmed him down. His property still, he's trying to take it in. He's trying to calm himself down. And then he takes in the beauty that still surrounds him on his property with the woods, the mountains in the distance. He's getting a calming effect. He takes that shot of whiskey. He started feeling calmer now. Taking in his property again. He goes, the vision of his property in the mountains all of a sudden turned upside down and terrifying. I'm looking out at the tree line, he goes on to tell me, Rob, and he says this thing on two legs was rapidly approaching. It had red, glowing eyes ablaze. It's getting toward dusky dawn, and he can see these eyes and this bipedal creature racing towards his house. It's getting closer and closer, he says. Now he can make out a long, elongated snout, high pointed ears. The ears were extremely high, pitched off on the side of his head, he says. As he gets closer, he can see glistening, sharp fangs. Rob, before you know it, this beast makes it all the way to his bay window, which he was making this observation. It gets to his bay window, everybody, as he's telling me, and it looks inside his house. He says this thing was so tall that it actually had to crouch down to peer into the window. And it peered right into him and looked directly at this guy, Tom. Rob, I felt like it was looking into my soul. I feared for my life, he says. Then he says, it appeared to grin at me. How can you imagine something with a long snout appeared to curl up the side of his mouth and appeared to grin? But it wasn't a smile, it was a sinister grin. He says this creature, it appeared to him in his mind that it was mocking him. He's looking at this Dogman, this werewolf, this beast that he cannot fathom what it is. It's mocking him. It's grinning at him. Hello, Hans. Welcome. And then he notices this creature staring in at him, brings up from his left hand, and he says, yeah, it's a hand with claws, extended claws. And in that left hand, he raises it up towards that bay window with his extended claws. And then the left hand, there was 2 dead chickens. With the right hand, he raises up the right hand, and it waved into him at the window, waved at him as if to say, till we meet again. The creature spun around and vanished off back into the tree line, and he hasn't seen it since. Yeah. What do you guys think about that one? That if we back this up, the guy inherits property from his uncle Max, gives him a ranch in Idaho, base of the mountains. Gets a couple cows, gets some chickens, a couple beautiful horses. The guy's not a farmer, he's not a rancher, intends on selling them. Then this happens within several weeks. And this was less than a month, you guys, when this was less than a month after he inherited this ranch style home. Can you imagine going out back and seeing the chicken coop smashed to bits with the chickens just all torn apart? Of course, the cows got out and they skedaddled. They were way away grazing somewhere else. And then I got to tell you, to see those horses done the way they were done in like that. That alone, you guys, is enough to shock anybody. It's terrifying, right? I'd be terrified. And then all of a sudden, he goes back in, tries to get his senses. He's getting ready to call whomever he wants to call on the authority level, the sheriff, whoever, I don't know. And then sees this werewolf, this Dogman, approach. It's so big that it gets up to his bay window and has to duck down and peers in at him with that big old wolf's-like head with those long elongated ears, shows its fangs, curls up the side of its mouth, grins at him. And this creature has the wherewithal to take it in his left hand and lift up 2 dead chickens, shakes them in the window. Ben takes the right hand and waves goodbye to the guy. I've heard a lot of Dogman stories, werewolf encounters that I've gotten, right? I think that's got to be one of the most terrifying ones that I've heard. And really, we always talk about a Dogman or a werewolf or whatever being like supernatural or something like that. Well, I must tell you, there was no element of anything supernatural about this. This is some sort of predator out on his property. Now, of course, that's all I got in the story. I always try to follow up with people to see how they're doing, any other activity, send me an email, get in touch with me. I give all these people my number. But this was back in 2017 when this happened. So I haven't heard from the guys since, but it's too bad that I can't get any follow-up because I'd like to really know if that thing is still roaming his property. Haven't heard from them. Sometimes I think it's a good thing. They just want to get these stories off their chest. And sometimes I think that maybe they just got the hell out of Dodge and they moved and they don't want to talk about it ever again to start a new life. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Hello, Randy. Arr, matey. Thanks for hey, Bigfoot Dwarf. How you doing? Yeah, kind of an impromptu show tonight. I'm gonna drop a link if anybody wants to come on the show. I told that story. I got another thing that happened to me today at Walmart, which you guys will find pretty weird. But I'm gonna drop a link if anybody wants to join me because I didn't prepare any other stories for this, and I typically like to memorize something. So yeah, I'm all by my lonesome on this brunch with Bigfoot Rob show. So I'm gonna post a link. Feel free to come on, talk about whatever you want. But I'm also going to tell you about something that happened to me today. I got to figure out. I haven't done this in a while. I normally don't do this. La 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 la. Invite, copy. I think I can now paste it, I guess. So there you go. That's the link. If somebody wants to come up and BS with me, if you got anything weird, it don't even have to be weird. So there's the link. Open to anybody. So last night I was on Brian Bowden's show. Sir Brian Bowden, that's his YouTube channel, and we had a cool show. He's a great guy. He's been on the show many times. So the course of his show yesterday, as we normally do, in fact, we do it quite a bit on this show, we got off tangent, off topic a little bit. And we were talking about what we have come across, all our weird paranormal things we come across, but we also talked about people with certain gifts, right? And I don't think BMR don't have no gifts. I'm a firm believer in that. But I always find it that I can always sense people, their intentions. I owned a bar for a while, 13 years, and I never interviewed. I interviewed the people. I didn't have to read their resume. You all know the story about Jimmy, that kid that I said was an evil guy, and in fact he was. Ended up killing his grandmother. Yeah, and I kind of knew this. And so we were going on and talking, and I said, people wherever BMR, wherever I'm at, you guys, I could be at a mobile gas station, and I see I got Keith from Michigan. I'm gonna pull up Keith. Thanks, Keith. I'm gonna bring him up in a minute. So people come and talk to me. I don't know what it is about me, you guys, but I'm standing in line at a mobile gas station and people talk to me. I'm standing waiting in line at a restaurant. People come up and talk to me. I can be shopping in Walmart. As I said, I was shopping at Walmart this morning because we have this snow coming in, and I wanted to get some early shopping done because I deal with everything that's going on, right? So I'm standing in Walmart, and I'm looking for I was looking for this. I was looking for a special cereal. My mom, you guys know I moved my mom in and she's been sick again and she wants something, so I decided to get it for her. So I'm kind of meandering about looking for this cereal, and my mom wanted shredded wheat. And I forgot what she wanted because I didn't write it down. And this young woman, well, I don't know how young she was. She's like in her 30s, I guess. She comes up to me, and this was so strange. She started talking with me, and we got on the subject of the paranormal. I don't know how this happens to me quite frequently. She goes, "Are you into the paranormal?" It's an odd question. And I'm like, "W- not too odd to me, but yeah, what do what's up with that?" She goes, "I just sensed that." I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me." She goes, "No, you probably do something. You've probably had some experiences." And it's so funny because we were just talking about this, me and Brian's show yesterday, about how this happens to me all the time. And just today, er, at the Walmart, this girl brings up this topic and she says she sensed that. And then I asked her, what did you have some special gifts or something? And she's like, I've had paranormal experiences with ghosts and all these things throughout my life. And when I seen you in this aisleway, you looked like you were looking for something, and it just struck me as to come up to you. And she goes, I have no reason why I started bringing up that I'm a paranormal person. So we talked for about 20 minutes, and she's had some weird things. In fact, everybody, I got her number and I booked her on the show. So I'm not going to give up what we talked about. Her name's Jenny, and she'll be on in the middle of June with good old BMR. We're going to talk about our experience at the Walmart together and all the weird things that happened. This happened in our lifetime. How we just made this connection just today. And it's so funny. We talked about it yesterday. So that's that. But I will tell you this. We talked. I said we didn't talk 20 minutes. We talked, it seemed like 20 minutes. I was just enthralled with this young lady, right? And it might have been 7 or 8, 10 minutes into it. And again, as I told you guys, I forgot that I was looking for shredded wheat for my mom. Did not write it down. Totally forgot. And right after we exchanged numbers in our phones, she looks at me, she smiles, waves like goodbye, and she goes, by the way, the shredded wheat, you're down one aisle. You guys, what the hell was that? I look and I was perplexed. I said, thank you. And I wasn't even thinking that I thought, did I say shredded wheat? I'm looking for shredded wheat. You guys, I don't think I mentioned it because I totally forgot. And I didn't even think about looking for the cereal when we were talking. Again, she says, well, I'll talk to you on your show. Shredded wheat, by the way, is down that aisle. And I thought nothing of it until I got it and I look, she's gone. And I'm like, holy cow, I didn't tell her that, did I? Now, maybe I did, everybody. Maybe I did because I was enthralled in talking with this person today. I just thought that was odd, and I can't wait to have her back on. She's gonna be on in June. I think the third Tuesday night with me and Krista, she will be on. So yeah, you guys stay in tune for that. That was pretty cool. But you guys, I get these types of accounts all the time. not necessarily just like today, but people come up to me, they talk to me. I don't know why, but I do the same to other people as well. I'm a friendly guy, and quite frankly, I try to get stories out of people too. That's my intention. But yeah. So, anyways, that was a quick short story, but I thought it was odd. We talked about it just last night on Bowden Show, and this happens to me today at Walmart, looking for cereal from Emma. Forgot the cereal. This chick's into the paranormal, comes up to me. We start yapping, knows what I'm looking for. With that being said, I can't wait to see her the third Tuesday in June. Keith, my friend, how are you, brother?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. I was having some issues with my headset.
No, you
Oh,
sound
yes.
good. You look good. Man, what about that? That's kind of weird, freaky, eh?
Dude, you know what that reminded me of is that story that you told about the you were talking to a lady. I don't know if it was at Kroger or something like that,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
you ended up having a cross in your pocket.
Oh, yeah. For those, yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, you guys. Some of you might have heard this that have been following me. This was during Christmas time, and I was at Kroger, not Walmart, but I was at a Kroger, and I had a brand new jacket on. No, it was springtime, I think. I don't know. I forget when it was exactly. It was either spring or December. I don't know. I can't. I have so many crazy accounts, but I remember having a lightweight park on, which was new, and I never wore it before. And it had the zippers on the side of it. And BMR does not. Rob doesn't. I don't wear a cross. I don't really wear jewelry. I have one really cool silver chain, but I don't wear nothing. I don't have a cross in my house. I don't carry. I don't have none of that stuff. And this woman, she's very nice looking older woman, and she's maybe 8, 9 feet from me. She looks at me in the Kroger, and I was looking for something, taco ingredients, I think. And she just looked at me very angelic and just said, God bless you. And I'm like, well, thank you. Same to you, I says. And so I'm going about my business. And you guys, I reached into my pocket for whatever reason, unzipped it, brand new coat, never put nothing in it. And I saved this because I know there's something behind this. This was, I don't know if you guys see it too well, but this, you guys, this is a cross. This was in my pocket. And I was amazed. And you guys, I do not collect these things. I don't wear these things. And I looked and I just all of a sudden it dawned
Stop!
on me.
Come on, get.
She didn't slide this in my pocket. She was 8 feet away. They were zipped up, brand new coat, as I said. So this was not from me. And I just looked to her, I just felt to look toward this woman, and she's gone, everybody. She's not even around. And I started looking through the store for her because I'm thinking this woman maybe was I don't know what I'm thinking she was, but I felt compelled to find her. But somehow I tell you what, I think she had something to do with this. So so I saved this. I saved this now. And this is the only it's the only cross that I have. I've never had one. I had a rosary when I went to catechism, but this is it. So I purposely saved this here with my other cool stuff I got. So yeah, Keith. I mean, I come across some weird stuff, man. That was that's another oddity. That's something very odd. Yeah, go ahead. Are
Yes.
you there? Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, I'm still having issues. I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
you're good.
and Jen brought up an interesting point there. Is that maybe that was a sensitive, and your spirit uh, let that sensitive know uh, your gifts.
Well, you've heard many times, and I hate to talk about myself, be redundant, but it's like the blondes and the booze. Chris, they says I have gifts and stuff. Last night, Brian said I did. I said, yeah, I don't have gifts. I think we're all intuitive. I think we all get the sense of someone's looking at us. Then they said, well, Rob, yours are like well progressed. I mean, and I I don't like talking about myself. I don't like to look at myself in that fashion. For whatever the reason, maybe I'm blocking something out of my conscious mind, right? I don't know. But anyway, so what's happening, man?
Oh, with me, same yard, different pile.
Yeah.
It's like I was telling you yesterday, man, that whole hour and a half of sleep I got yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
don't know
was
why. It
told
just happens.
I was told not to bring that up from them because they don't want to. It's going to be out in a year, so they want to keep it under wraps as far as what we did yesterday.
Sure.
So, but that was interesting. I filmed there for a while yesterday, hour and a half. So we'll see what happens with that. So I know you're going to be going on the Blondes and Booze. We booked you for May 15th to do part 2 of the show you did with me.
Yeah, and man, I'm looking forward to part 2 on this. And we'll start off. Just give a little teaser. We're going to start off from July of 2004. Is from that point until about the end of December 2004. Really got really freaky. If people like the first part of this show that we did with you, they're going to love the second part. And also too, I'd like to send you a picture of that cabin that I had mentioned.
Okay.
That old ranger station. It's beat to hell now, but at least it'll give people a visual of what I'm talking about when we talked about that sacrifice house or whatever. So yeah, it's pretty creepy, but there's going to be definitely more Dogman involved, and the paranormal end of things really quite an uptick in that, and where they seem to be connected in some points. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Got more stuff from as far as Dogman visuals. July of last year. Now the wife's seen a couple things here and there, but she wasn't quite sure. July 3rd of last year, 9:45 p.m. She got shown, and yeah, she got a kick out of it, I guess. And it was right by Highland Recreation area.
Well, yeah. She got a kick out of seeing a Dogman.
Yeah, because well, she's seen a couple things before.
Okay.
And one was here at the house where we're at now, and that I said it was a Dogman. She said it was. She says no, it was more of a large wolf that she saw. And I'll bring this up with the Blondes and Booze as well. So
yeah,
she was going to work one morning, and then she's a 9 to 5 girl, so it wasn't early, or and it was kind of daylight, and there what appeared to her was a very large, on 4 legs, black wolf. Its head come up to her head.
Oh, wow.
It looked at her and started walking around a little bit, because we got an acre here, and probably a third of it's mowed. It's where the house is at, and then the rest is wooded swamp. We actually got the biggest lot in this neighborhood, and between our driveway and the main road going to that Dodge Park, we got about 40 feet thick of woods, and it was just in the tree line. And she watched it. It looked at her, walked for quite a few feet, and just faded out.
Oh,
and yeah, that was pretty trippy.
It faded out, kind of.
Yeah, just disappeared basically, and she didn't say anything. You know how we talked about before with getting that shimmer like the Predator. Nothing like that. It just kind of faded out, and that was it on that one. And then, man, I think this is pre-COVID. We were out driving around, and we were down that Livingston Road by the swamps, and you're driving, and you have the embankment on a dirt road. This is what this is, about 3 or 4 feet. And sometimes the lights at night, can play tricks on you with shadows or whatever the case is. But shadows don't come out of the woods, run alongside your car for a couple 100 feet, then dart back off into the woods.
No,
and it was right up on you.
Correct.
Yeah, and it was, again, she said, just dark in color. She couldn't tell if it was paranormal or if it was an actual Dogman, but it was dark in color on all fours, and it paced our vehicle. Now, we were going probably 25, 30 miles an hour, and it darted back off in the woods, and that was close to her. That was just on the side of the road. And then, crazy enough, I don't know what this was, but we were out driving around last Saturday night, and we went by where that park is at with that ranger station.
Yeah.
And we get it. I mean, anybody that's been there, you hear a story, you come across the place, and all of a sudden you kind of get the shivers or whatever. To me, most of that is kind of mind over matter. But dude, Rob, this was crazy. We drove by that place. We know what's in there. It's no big deal. It was dark. And as we drove by the main driveway going into that place, I had this overbearing urge. Now I carry a sidearm on me.
Okay.
I don't pull that when I'm in the vehicle.
Right. Okay.
And it's just, it's got safeties and everything, but why do it? I mean, it's just a risk at that point. And at the same time, I pulled it, flicked the safety off, and put it on my leg, hand on it, ready to go. Lauren, she just kind of looks down and away from her side window. And at the same time, we're saying, we don't know what was there, but there was something. And we had that crazy feeling that we were being followed out of that area for probably about a quarter mile. And it scared the hell out of both of us. And, talking about it, I think it was Sunday night, we were talking about it, and I agree with her. We don't think what that was Dogman. And because I've been in there, I've seen them, and, thank God they haven't attacked or gotten really aggressive or anything. They are intimidating, don't get me wrong, but whatever this was, I don't know. It had to have been something supernatural to spook us. My concern is with the how that house is degrading fairly rapidly.
Now, this is around that house then you said where you're.
Yeah. I'll send you pictures here after the show. I'll text them to you.
Sure.
I'll try and find a before and an after. And again, for the chat, if anybody's interested to see what it looked like, at least back in 2012, try the cabin scene from the remake of Red Dawn. There's a scene in there where the bad guys take the cop out and they try to get their kids to come out of the woods. That's the place. So maybe, Rob, with either you or the girls, you guys can have that picture and it'll give you kind of a before and after.
Yeah, okay.
And it's creepy. Now, I was back in there, actually walked around for what I could, probably about a month ago. There's still a bit of snow on the ground. And as far as Dogman or anything, and this is daytime, this is actually when I took that picture, it was unusually peaceful. So I don't know if that was kind of given like a sense of, a sense of security or whatever, thinking, hey, okay, nothing's here.
Yeah.
Kind of the
take you off guard, lower the inhibitions per se.
Right. But it was very, very peaceful. And it was, I know what's in there. I have buddies that I know, they know what's in there or whatever, at least has been in there.
So there's been just nefarious things.
Oh yeah. The Dogmen are in there, and I think I had mentioned it on the first show with you that with that house, I don't get anywhere near that thing. I mean, when I take those pictures, I'm in the car. I don't go near it. I went near it one time. And this is before I knew of you guys or anybody else on YouTube that did this type of content.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what infrasound or anything was like that. I didn't know. And back in 2004, I went by that house, and I didn't get touching distance, but I got probably about 4 or 5 feet away from it. And there was this, I could barely hear it, but there was almost like a low growl that came up behind me. but I believe it was that infrasound because my insides instantly felt like jelly. It was really weird and made me want to throw up. It was almost instant. And I don't know if it was caused from the house. I tend to think what it was being that it come from behind me, that the dogmen, they don't like what's in that house. A quick recap for everybody is back a few years ago, late 90s, in this house, some kids decided to do a little Ouija board stuff, but they topped it up a little bit with live animal sacrifice. Well, lo and behold, when you play stupid games, something crawls out of the woodwork. And kids being kids, they didn't close anything and they just left. Mm-hmm. And that's where when I was doing the court-ordered volunteer service, the lady was telling me about that, and she didn't even live in this area. So with that being said, I think that the dogmen, yeah, we hear the bad stories, especially just the one you just spoke about. I don't think all of them are necessarily bad. That's where I talk about the eye color and everything.
Yeah.
And I really think that eye color has something to do with it. Now, a little bit off topic or whatever. I got a couple Boston Terrier pups here, and they're half brothers. And the older one, he's a sweetie, aren't you, buddy? Yeah. But at night when I hit him with the flashlight or whatever, I check the area for animals, his eyes glow blue. Really? However, my little hellion, which is my boy.
Is that the puppy? Because I heard that puppies have blue eye shine sometimes. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's what? How? He's probably what? 2-3 years old now.
Oh, okay.
He's 3 years old.
Okay.
And then the baby, he's 2 years old. He's the hellion. But when I hit him with the flashlight, his eyes are blood red. Oh, wow. And he's an obnoxious little turd. But I mean, I'm sure there's nothing hand in hand with both of them or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, it was just kind of a cool coincidence to see how one's laid back and then the other one's a wee bit feisty. So that's just the way I look at it.
I think that I love when people share some of these stories like you just shared prior to anybody that just came on. It's because, I always say this all the time about collecting data points, data, however you call it, however you want to say it. Because, there was something, this guy sent me the story. I talked to this guy. He lived in Rockford, Illinois. In fact, I lived in Rockford, Illinois. I did a 90-day contract job when I was way younger, right out of college for 90 days in Rockford. But I just worked for 90 days and I moved back to Michigan. But that was pretty much right at the border of Wisconsin. And I had mentioned that on a show one time, and this guy sent me an email. Rob, I was in Rockford, Illinois, not too far where you stayed back in the day. And he says that, man, I was flanked by something that I couldn't put heads or pieces together until I started watching some of these cryptid channels. Then he mentioned mine and a few other ones. And so as I'm reading the email, he went on to tell me him and his girlfriend, they used to camp at this park in north of Rockford at the border, right? And they used to camp at this place all the time. And they loved it. It was always fantastic. In fact, they met on a trail, walking the trail around there. And that's how they met each other, right? So that's kind of one of their places they go. Then one night they felt it very odd that they felt they're just being watched. We've all heard this, right? You get that feeling you're being watched, this, that, and the other, but they couldn't put their finger on it. But it was just something that they just couldn't shake, this weird feeling. Never had this feeling before. So they're kind of looking around where they're at, and they can't see anything or they can't see anybody. They're thinking it's a human being, of course, but they had that weird feeling. Then all of a sudden, as you had mentioned earlier, I think you're talking about, they seen these glowing red eyes from the tree line. Rod, they hover about 4 feet above the tree line. There's red eyes, and this is like daytime. Again, of course, the shadows of the forest with the trees. I mean, it's not 100% daylight depending where you're at in the forest. And they see these eyes and they're blinking, looking in at him. He goes, Rob, I gotta tell you, it scared me because you remember way back in the Amityville horror movie where the pigs in the window were flashing their eyes. He goes, that's what it reminded me of. But these were big, red, and it was not a pig. I'm like, wow. So him and his girlfriend, I think, girlfriend or wife, I forget. They get in their vehicle and they take off. They just were spooked out. They packed up their gear and they got in their Jeep and they headed home. He says, well, traveling home, they're in the forest. And he says, and frankly, where the forest leads to is their home, because the man, was dating this girl and his house was actually in the woods, which was maybe 10 miles from this campsite. So yeah, we got freaked out. We got in our vehicle and we're taking off and got the heck out of there. And then as soon as they leave, they felt more relieved. Now they're talking about what they encountered, what they're feeling, what their experience, and they just couldn't get it. And they kind of started to brush it off a little bit. Then all of a sudden, he's looking at his girlfriend to the right in the car, and she just was looking at him very nervous like. And he says, honey, what's up? You look like you're at odds with yourself. I can tell by your expression. She goes, I got that feeling we're being watched. He goes, what do you mean being watched? We're the vehicle. Now they're doing 25, 26 miles an hour. He says the road is something you don't want to go like over 30 for, you don't want to screw up your car because the road was kind of crappy, I guess. So she goes, yeah, I get that feeling back at the campsite like we're being watched. She goes, that's odd. I don't really feel that. So he says, well, don't worry about it. You're just thinking about our past little experience that we had. He said, it's kind of creepy. He goes, we'll be home in about 15 minutes or whatever. So a couple minutes later, he looks at his girlfriend and says, man, I feel like we're being watched too. And it's unbelievable. We're in our vehicle. And they're both like, yeah. So for whatever the reason, you guys, they stopped. They got out of their vehicle. They parked it on the side of the road. Stretched their legs, whatever. I don't know. They look at the tree line. There's those red eyes. They saw their campsite. And now they're maybe 6 miles away from the campsite. Mind you, driving 25 miles an hour. So whatever this was followed them and kept up pace with their vehicle. Okay. Of course, I've heard stories of dogmen running alongside cars at 50 miles an hour, but this is a little more weird with a set of red eyes are sitting there blinking once again when they got out of their vehicle. They're like, no, let's get the hell out of here. They get back in their vehicle. Now goes Rob. I kind of went over 25. I'm doing like 30, 35 miles an hour, and I got the heck out of there. And then for a little distance, he was maybe a quarter-mile distance. He says, Rob, the red eyes you could see was paralleling them in their vehicles. They're traveling, and they don't know what to do. Whatever this is following them. Finally, the red eyes, they go away, and now they're like 5 minutes from home, and they finally get home. And again, they live back in the man had a house back in the woods. They get in, they take all their camping gear out, they get back and they settle down in the house and they're recanting what they just experienced, how they've been, dating and they've been going there for the last several years. That's the weirdest experience they ever had. And they just, the red eye thing, they couldn't get out of their mind. What was it? Whatever. So later in the evening, they go on their back porch, have a cup of coffee, whatever they're doing, right? And they're just hanging out, talking. They kind of are settled in now. They're a little more relaxed. And they're both looking out in the beautiful area they live in. And lo and behold, from the tree line, those red eyes appear, blinking back at them. And they're way away from the campsite. The same red eyes they saw at the campsite, the same red eyes that paralleled them on their way home. Then they lost the red eyes. Now they're home. They're home a few hours. And all of a sudden, there they are again. Now, I'm not suggesting what that is. I'm not going to say it's a dog, man. They didn't give a physical description that it emerged from the tree line as a wolf or whatever. left it at that. The red eyes. He goes, those red eyes, parallel them, follow them. So what was that? Who knows, right? Something certainly on the paranormal realm, I'm just guessing at, right? Creepy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Creepy stuff, man.
Yeah, I never told you. I know we got a few minutes left. I never told
Yeah,
you
we do.
what
Hey,
my.
you know what? I'm going to put us backstage for just a moment because I do something for my mom. Then we can finish up the show if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I'm just
Yep.
gonna blank us out for just a minute, everybody. Don't go nowhere, everybody. I got to take care of Mama for just a moment. I'll be right back. All righty. That was quick. Thank you. So yeah, so you had something. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit here.
Yeah, I didn't even mention this last time. I don't even think I told you about this. But anyway, you know how people normally ask, "Oh, what? How did you get into Bigfoot or werewolves, paranormal, or whatever?"
Yeah.
This actually started with me when I was a puppy. I was probably 6, 7 years old or whatever. And so you're looking at about 81, 82. Well, mom and dad were sleeping one morning, and I decided, hey, I'm going to flip on the movie channel. What was on? The Howling.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, you know, perfect family movie, I guess. But I
Yeah.
watched that and made the mistake of watching that. Got the hell scared out of me or whatever. Man, it wasn't a week or two later was my first camping trip.
Yeah.
Man, and we went up to was it Mud Lake right there in Clare County, center of the state.
Okay.
And there's campground there. To this day it's still quite rustic. It's you know you get an outhouse and a well. That's it. And but anyway, everything was all good. We were right on the lake. We were the only ones in the campground. Man, nighttime come out and the howling began.
Mm.
And me being a kid, I don't know what this is. And it's on the other side of the lake. Lake's pretty big size. Heard the howling and the crazy bark. And what's that? What's that? No, I got that damn movie stuck in my head. And as night progressed, the howling got closer. And they got frenzied. They got closer, closer, closer. And I ended up falling asleep, scared to death. And woke up the next morning. Our camp was trashed. What ended up happening was there was a group of coyotes. And of course, me being a kid, I didn't know the difference between a coyote or wolf or anything like that. But they had come into our camp and tried to take our cooler. So the cooler was trashed all over the place in this campground. But yeah, that's how that started as far as the werewolves. And it's always kind of stuck in the back of my head. But, you know, later in life and everything, there is always this things telling me they're real.
Okay.
And I just stayed out of the woods, man. I didn't really go into the woods until man, like senior year of high school. And that the only reason we did that is because it was a shortcut between our houses. Now a shortcut there is a couple miles where, you know, I lived out there in Highland. But yeah, that's how I wouldn't say a fascination with werewolves or dogman or what. I didn't know what dogmen were until 23.
Okay.
So I never heard that. But yeah, it was on a lighter note as compared to the stories that you just mentioned. So
Yeah, but
figured
2020, So your encounters, your experiences you've had with Dogman, they're all very recent then, correct? I mean, they're within the last 5 years, perhaps?
Um, the first time the run-ins that I had with them or encounters or whatever, that was in '92. That was
Yeah, that's
I think
right.
it was junior year of high school, summer vacation between junior and senior year in high school.
Well, you
And
did correlate between Werewolf and Dogman in '92, right? And you kind of put
no,
that together later on in life.
I didn't. I really, honestly, hearing Dogman, I didn't really hear it more abundantly until your guys' shows. I mean, I was kind of one of them things where I'd watch a handful of documentaries or shows, or people show their videos, and obviously you could tell it's AI or whatever. But I had done a show back in '23. It was my first one around Christmas of '23, and then I came on with you. But yeah, I never put two and two together.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it was pretty interesting. Now, as far as the majority of the encounters that I had, and haven't really gotten into that yet, I'll do that with the girls.
Yeah.
The majority of them really ran between the July of 2004 and late December of 2004. I saw a few, and yeah, it was pretty trippy. And then there was a combination of them and paranormal stuff happening at the same time. And again, I'm still out there. I was still out there in that Highland area, and yeah, stay tuned. It gets pretty trippy, like I said. And the last time we saw a Dogman across the road, that was off of 59 and Duck Lake, and we was on one of them back roads along Highland Recreation area. It's the back side of it, and it crossed a couple hundred feet in front of us. The only thing that bugs me about that is I can't remember if it had a long tail or not. But when that thing crossed the road, it was big. I mean, it had the darker brown hair, and Lauren saw it. And even though we were still a couple hundred feet away, you could tell that it wasn't a deer. We could confirm that. And just the way, the big thing, obviously, physical body, but the big thing was the front arms. I'll call them arms. And even at that distance, you could see the hands. And they almost looked like how people refer to them as the raccoon style hands. Yeah, you could see them. And then we just kept going down that road. Of course, we're looking, we don't want to get ambushed by anything. And it got into some S turns. But as soon as we got out of the S turns, there's two deer, an older one, and then it's fawn that it had for that year. But I'm kind of guessing what it was that Dogman was tracking those deer.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty trippy.
That is pretty trippy. And really quickly, Mr. Anderson in the chat room brought up, do you guys ever watch movies and see an entity from a personal encounter? Well, I will say this, Mr. Anderson. I used to talk about this every once in a while. Not really to the extent of that question for me. I, for one, think that we all can manifest things if we really concentrate hard enough. I know I've been able to do it. I did it with getting better grades in school. Literally, it could be anything. But I will tell you this, for a long time, and I quit doing this about 2 years ago, because I like everything that's creepy and spooky, from the cryptids to the paranormal. And I even get I was on this kick, Keith, where I would watch demonic stuff. Okay. Like Rose, something like as simple as Rosemary's Baby, to the Linda Blair movie, because I'm very much into the genre or the practicing or having people on, which I'm trying to get an exorcist on the show. I find it fascinating. So those are just kind of some of the things that I would listen to or watch on TV, and it's always late at night. And so there was one night I was watching, it was like a B film on YouTube. It was, and Rob, I like, for whatever reason, I like watching these independent films where they're not known actors. It could be me and you in the movie. I mean, you can tell they're not Hollywood stars, if you will, but they put together, I find, these very fascinating movies. And I was watching this one, and it was about exorcisms and this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden, man, they start coming out in this chant. There's this chant on this movie that I'm watching about 2, 3 in the morning. And the chant was very creepy. I don't know what the language was. Latin, perhaps. I think it might have been Latin. I don't know. But this chant, and I found it very haunting. And I got creeped out. I shut off my TV. And then I drift off to sleep. And this is where I started having one of my first bouts with, I think it was sleep paralysis. Because throughout the night, I could hear those thoughts, those chants was in my mind. And they were word for word verbatim from what I just seen on the movie. And it got really creepy because now I know that I'm awake, because I looked around my house and I'm laying there, and the TV is in front of me. I fell asleep in the chair, but I'm awake, and these chants are in my head. And I'm awake. It's as though that these people that were doing these chants were in my house, and I got very terrified. And it reminded me of, I got to the point where I tried to yell out and scream. There's no one in my house, but I wanted to yell out and say, "Go away," or something. And I'm looking around the house. I'm awake, and it reminded me. And then I got to the point, and most people know about when I had my encounter, with the Bigfoot, right? Where I got hit with that, whatever that was, that sonic blast, that infrasound, ultrasound, where I remember I was paralyzed, I couldn't move. Well, I couldn't move either, because I tried to get up out of my seat in my chair and just get up. I was frozen stiff and couldn't move. In fact, I couldn't even move my head around. And I was really terrified. And then it seemed like I was in that state through the entire night until the sun rose, literally. And then a couple weeks later, not even watching anything spooky, the same thing happened again. And then that's later on in life not in life, but later on, a few months later, is when I remember I saw that smoke rolling down my hallway. And I got this deep vibe, this dark vibe from that. And once again, I'm awake, and I cannot break free from this. So I started talking to some people about that. And they told me that, and I didn't really believe this until I looked it up a little further. I did not know that if you have something broadcast on your television, on your radio, on your phone, and it's a language that you don't know what it is, and that's being broadcast into your space, broadcast into your energy, if you will, that can lead to opening up things you don't want to get into. A lot of people suggest that's what sleep paralysis is, right? So I do not any longer watch any of those types of movies. And if there's something on TV where I don't understand the verbiage or what they're chanting, I shut it off, man. Now, I haven't had any bouts like that in a long time, or a long time since I stopped doing that. But I will say this, the times that it did happen, I started praying the Our Father prayer, and immediately goes away. Like the night where I was up like for 8 hours until morning, I'm probably, if I had started saying the Our Father, it would have went away. So that was I think it was some sort of demonic energy that entered. I don't know for sure though, but it scared the hell out of me, so I don't do that no more.
Yeah, I've had, in fact, actually, it was yesterday. Now, I listen to all types of music. I mean, I really do. Donnie Cho, except K-pop. I don't listen to K-pop,
Yeah, Johnny.
but yeah, I was checking some videos out yesterday on YouTube, and it was one of those, well, heavier music would be a gross understatement, but I turned it on, and people started singing, and there was something about it. I said, there's something a little bit beyond just the makeup and the theatrics of it, and I had to turn it off. Now, as far as you know what the question was, I'm kind of the opposite on that, and I've had this happen where in dreams I've had scenes or whatever, and then X amount of time later watch a movie and then see a scene very similar to what was in my dream.
Okay.
I mean, it could have been, taken off the same script, but yeah, I had that sleep paralysis, like you. I've had the sleep paralysis one time, and this was it's the last time that it happened was, I think it was like 13 or 14. And this messed me up physically. I was asleep, laying on my back, and I woke up, couldn't move. Now my hands were crossed like this. I don't know, for some reason I was sleeping like that. Woke up, couldn't move. My eyes are fully open. I am totally aware what's going on. My right arm, I was on the right side of the bed. My right arm, you could feel somebody grasp my wrist and forearm real light. And my arm just kind of did one of these things real nice and slow. And I'm watching this thing. And it pulled it off the side of the bed and then yanked. It tried to pull me off the bed. I actually partially got pulled off the bed. And it was enough. It messed my arm and neck up enough. It cost me 3 days of work, an MRI, and my C4, my C4, C5 disc, and C5, C6 disc on my neck to this day still have damage.
Wow, man.
Yeah, but yeah, that was crazy enough. But thank God nothing else like that anymore. I'll just blame it on the wife part two. She was all into that creepy stuff anyway.
Yeah.
But
go
ahead.
No, I was saying it's just like, I've kind of drawn away from even watching horror movies. I never was a slasher film guy. I never liked that. I was always infatuated with things. See, I like those shows because I believe that is truthful. I believe in God, therefore I do believe in the devil. I don't worship the devil, but if you believe in God, you believe in the devil, he exists. And so I always find it fascinating when these exorcist things come out or these documentaries. I can't still watch the original Exorcist. I can't get through the whole movie because it freaks me out that bad.
Yeah, that one part where when they did the remake, I forgot how long ago it was, where they actually added the cut scenes, and Reagan does that, I don't know, that upside down crab walk down the stairs. You gotta be kidding me. And
No way,
I didn't say kidding on me, but we saw that in a movie theater, and yeah, that freaked me out. And I still,
yeah, and I watched Emily Rose, which creeped me out. And I also listened to the old Art Bell tapes of Father Malachi Martin, who was a Roman Catholic exorcist for over 30 years. Now, that doesn't scare me, but it's pretty intense. And if anybody's into that, I listen to that all the time. And it's some fascinating things that go on, especially not just the United States, but like Peru, Mexico. And this guy was all over extracting demons from these poor folks, right? Some made it and some didn't, So yeah, I kind of guard myself on that today because of my past experiences just with these nightmares or the sleep paralysis. I do tell you, I will say this though. I don't know if it's a thing. I don't think it's a mental thing or not. I can watch these shows, however, at 12 in the afternoon with the sun out, I can watch them. It doesn't have that same creepy ambiance, I guess, because it's daylight. You feel safer, I guess. There's something about the night that always creeps me out a little bit when I watch these movies. I dig them. I'm a night owl. And that's why when I'm up, I come across all the crazy, crazy B movies, which I think there's a reason why maybe they're a B movie. I
Right. I
think
mean,
too much
any more with myself, man. I've with as many nightmares as I've been having lately. Hell, I could watch Pee Wee's Big Adventure and wake up screaming. I swear. Right.
I wake up screaming because I fall to bed at 3 a.m, knowing I have to get up at 6:30 in the morning,
Ooh.
and I'm screaming because how come I can't sleep? See, I just get too wound up at night. I don't know what it is, man. The nighttime I'm charged, but I still get up at the same time every day, 6:30. I can go to bed. If I went to bed at 8 at night, which I haven't done that in years, I would get up at 6:30. If I went to bed at 3 in the morning, I get up at 6:30. It's that programmable clock that we have in our brain. I have not used an alarm clock in probably 20 years.
Oh wow.
And
That's
it
crazy.
doesn't matter.
Hey Rob, can I kind of put you on a spot for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. I knew you'd agree with me. Hey, this is actually for chat. I was thinking about this the other day. A few months back, you guys did a late night show where it was like a Q&A for the people in chat, and you kind of raffled off. Would you guys be willing to do that again soon? I kind of got a kick out of that.
Oh,
so
the
I'm thinking maybe that,
where
you'd raffle out.
We do raffles for little milestone things. We did one for Paranormal Paul when he hit 1,000 subs.
Was that like a Q&A thing or whatever? I think it was what I'm talking about is when the people in chat could ask you questions and then you guys would answer.
I don't remember that. And we raffled.
Yeah, it's about 3 months ago, I think it was.
It was
you guys made a whole night. I think it was it was on your show. It was still when you're, I think you were still doing midnights.
Yeah, well, I do 11 o'clock still now, but yeah.
Yeah. So it was that time when you did this. And I think you had a show lined up with somebody and the guest fell through or whatever. So you had, I think you had all three of the girls.
Well, I don't think I did one on Saturday because that's kind of a different show, but
I could be mistaken.
We did do something similar though. I think on the Blondes might have done a raffle. We all raffled.
Oh, maybe.
We did a Q&A thing. Q&A. We have so many different shows. But we like doing, I get a kick out of that. We spin that wheel. We just did one for Paul just last weekend when he hit 1,000. But no, we always do that stuff. Of course, I can't do it all the time because I just gave away, a few free books just the other day. Hey, to BJ, by the way. Hey, BJ, what's up? I'll be getting your book out to you. Of course, she sent me her book, so it kind of worked out perfectly for BJ. And little Patty, I'll be getting yours out to you as well for that raffle. That they won last weekend on, I think it was on Paranormal Paul show. I think it was, yeah. So I love doing that. I don't mind giving stuff away, and especially for a good event or a good. If we hit a milestone, we're gonna have a big blowout party for the first channel hits 10,000. That won't be for a while though. We still got ways to go for that. But yeah. So man, this has been a great. Thanks for popping on in. I both Tex.
No problem.
Tex has stuff going on with his kids, and I don't know where Brent's at. Brent said he was going to come on, which is fine. I go check out the replay. I did a really creepy Dogman story first, and then I put the link out, and Keith popped on to help me out and talk a little bit, which helps pass the time because I really wasn't prepared to do a full length show on stories. I do those Fridays at 6. Every Friday night at 6 or 6:30, I do true cryptid encounters from folks. So check that out. I'm on 4 days a week. If you're new, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube. The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, Texas Front Porch, Donnie Cho says stuff, Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World, and of course, Paranormal Paul. And so check us out. Thanks for everyone for coming and hit the like button on your way out. Leave a comment afterward. Books are on Amazon.
Hi, Diane.
Diane, Oh, Diane, really quickly, we had a great show Tuesday night. We had Eddie Johnson on, Eddie and Jen, and it was Diane's birthday, and Eddie sang happy birthday. Eddie, who has got a musical background, we talked about the legend of Robert Johnson for a little bit, as Eddie is the great grandson of Eddie Johnson, who went to the crossroads and sold his soul allegedly to the devil. We debated that. We talked about that. That was a great show. Check that out. That was last Tuesday. Blondes and Booze tonight at 9:00. We'll have a great show for you. With that being said, thank you. I'm going to sign us off here in a moment. Hit the like button on your way. Joanne, how you doing? Happy belated birthday, she says to Diane. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I'm just going to scroll through here really quickly to get this all set up. So, yeah, thanks, Keith. You'll be on with the Blondes and Booze May 15th, Thursday, to do part 2 of this part 1 that he did with me, which was a great show. We had a lot of views on that one. You guys really like Keith. He's got some fascinating stuff. And for Keith, thank you. For everybody else, I'm BMR. Until next time, we are out.
This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.